Welcome back to another episode, and thank you guys for chiming in to Charlize.
Yes!
Where we talk about the trendiest, the juiciest, and the most controversial topics happening right now. Hello, we're your hosts. I'm Crystal.
I'm Charlize.
And I'm Helen.
So, what do y'all think defines a healthy relationship? Some may say communication, acts of service, clinginess, or even a little toxic masculinity. Do you ever wonder where these phrases come from?
I think all of these phrases come from the mass media consumption by younger generations these days, because I've read this article and it talks about how social media has become one of the most commonly used platforms worldwide, with majority of its audience being of the younger generations instead of older ones. Over time, we've transitioned from TVs to smartphones, which has really led us to become more dependent on social media and other streaming services instead of our old sources of entertainment like cable and TV.
I don't know if it's just me, but these TikTok videos have been making me need a relationship lately.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've been getting so many couple content lately, and it's making me want a man for summer. I need one. And for me, I typically aim for someone, who matches my humor and personality. I'm super into having the same music taste, films, hobbies, and I want someone who gets my stupid pop culture references.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I like when someone is a little too obsessed with me.
Really, I'm not really sure what I would look for in a relationship, but I definitely agree with you on having common interests. I've seen a lot of videos online, though, of couples having, really different interests with one another, and they always seem to make it work out. But I've always wondered how they were able to do this, especially because it's so difficult meeting someone halfway, especially if you guys don't like the same things.
I agree with both of y'all. I just want someone to laugh with. Also someone who respects my time, since I hate texting or calling 24/7. I get too bored, and maybe someone who knows how to comfort me, and someone who remembers the little things without me having to remind them.
Oh my god, yes. The little details matter so much. This really makes me wonder, to what extent has media consumption altered people's mind of romantic relationships and love?
This leads us to our topic of the day. In today's episode, we will be discussing the following questions. First off, we have, how do younger generations with access to social media perceive love compared to older generations? Secondly, how do social media standards of love affect people's standards of love, and how does that affect their relationships? And lastly, what are the differences in how couples perceive love and how single individuals perceive love? Chime in after this short break for discussion on the first question of the day.
Welcome back. Starting off with our first question. How do younger generations with access to social media perceive love compared to older generations?
I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectations that come with social media usage by teens. In Anchor Light Therapy for Couples and Families, they researched and gathered information on all of the realistic versus unrealistic expectations people expect out of others. While going through the list, I realized that a lot of the unreasonable expectations are romanticized all over social media. They're basically listing every other couple you can see online by scrolling through your feed. Some examples that I saw them list on the article were that people were never getting into arguments and always spending time with one another, which is seen a lot online with couples that make content together. I know that my grandparents definitely did not expect that from one another back then, especially because they went through so many arguments together and had little to no leisure time to spend with one another.
I definitely agree. In a research done by the Pew Research Center, it states that 91% of social media users that often see romantic relationships on social media are ages 18 to 29, while only 56% are from the individuals ages 65 and up. With this, the younger generation tends to see relationship content on their feed more often than the older generation, which indeed can change their perspective on love, since the younger generation tends to be inexperienced or oblivious. I doubt my grandma gets videos of cute couples on TikTok. She's probably getting cooking videos instead.
That is so true. My grandma would never look at couples content. Based off the article, The Influence of Social Media on College Students' View of Love, How Ke displays the clear difference in the perception of love between the two generations. Older individuals tend to value more traditional relationships, relying on face-to-face. In contrast, the younger individuals look forward to media platforms as a form of validation and even creating new trends like situationships. The term situationship roots from none other than social media itself. It is used when a pair is on the brink of dating but never officially labels themselves. Continuing on, the need for social validation for younger individuals is due to the constant exposure of high expectations in relationships via media platforms. This drastically affects the way young individuals act, like, for example, it could lead to emotional immaturity, clinginess, prioritizing looks over emotional connection, or even developing mental health issues.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes
Now that we have
off
covered the influence of social media and the difference in the younger and older generation's perception of love, let's discuss how media in general has affected people's standards of love and how it affects their own relationship.
A study conducted in Istanbul of 60 people in a relationship who utilized social media platforms was done to see how the media affects their relationship. The insights gathered from this study were that individuals prefer traits like media literacy, physical attractiveness, empathy, and communication. Many of the individuals use digital platforms to bridge relationships over to reality, which essentially means that social media is used to build a real relationship. This doesn't necessarily indicate something positive. It could lead to distorted views of love, such as unspoken standards of romance based off the media. This illusion can result in individuals not being able to separate digital romance from the real-world romance. Another study was conducted with 252 individuals in a romantic relationship, and it uncovered the negative correlation between social networking services and their commitment in relationships. People who seemed to have a greater usage of social networking services were proven to have less commitment in their relationships in real life. In addition to this, the study discovered that the younger surveyors had a substantial amount of media usage compared to the older surveyors, which can also answer our first question. And the emotions formed via online can create an intimacy that eventually leads to negative traits like jealousy, suspicion, infidelity, and instigation. The oversharing of information can cause people to develop personal feelings towards the online individual. So, in the broader context, the media can warp the way people feel about love and doesn't just change about how individuals meet, but how love is expected, developing a standard.
To any new viewers chiming in, we like to invite special guests every week to seek their input on the topic we're discussing that week. Please give a warm welcome to Tina and Kylie, a couple who we believe would be the key to unlocking our most burning questions for this segment.
Tina and Kylie, thank you so much for agreeing to come. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us.
To continue on with our topic of the week, are any of you guys on social media often?
I would say that I use social media pretty often.
I don't spend too much time on social media.
Okay, perfect. There are a few questions our viewers are curious about that I'd like to ask you two. Starting off, have you ever let social media alter your perspective on your own relationship?
Since I'm always online, I would always see videos of other people's relationship, and I would always compare my own relationship to theirs. This has caused a lot of problems and gave me unrealistic expectations on how I thought a relationship was supposed to be like. But I realized after 3 years with Tian that everyone's relationship is different, and that I don't need to have the ideal relationship that everyone seems to have online. Although we have our differences, we found ways to communicate with one another to work through these problems, which we typically don't see online. I rarely see people talk about the problems that comes with being in a relationship, but after 3 years, I've noticed that there's a lot that could come with being in one, and I've had to work with Tian over time to fix these issues.
Wow, I really enjoyed your response. So, let me ask Tian, since you are the complete opposite and it seems like you aren't on social media that often, how do you perceive love?
Personally, the way I see love is that love is just wanting each other's presence. Just learning from our relationship with Kylie, I tend to just want to spend time with her, and I don't think that our love stems from all the fun dates we had, but rather from just being together and interacting with one another. I think our relationship mostly developed from all the small everyday things that we do instead of all the big grand acts of love like the ones that we see online.
That was a really great answer. We really enjoyed you guys' response and the insights into how social media norms of love affects people's standards in relationships. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Left off, I found another person on Medium who talks about her own experience of falling in love and how it changed the way she viewed it beforehand. Before dating her boyfriend Alan, she believed that love was perfect and that there were no complexities that came with loving someone. But after experiencing love firsthand, she realized that it was so much more than that, and it had so many different complexities that were implemented in it. All of the imperfections that were fixed by putting in a lot of effort into the relationship is what made it prosper, which really interested me. It really shows how influential media can be to couples because she had originally set all of these high expectations for herself and her own relationship by watching all of these movies and shows showing a perfect relationship where they don't have to work out any other differences. Reading about her personal experience made me realize how much media alters our perspective of love because she truly believed relationships had no imperfections and that there was always going to be a happily ever after.
Moving on to our last and final topic, what are the differences in how couples perceive love and how a single individual perceives love? Well, in my perspective, I think love is a great experience, but it can be sort of tiresome.
I think that too. I feel like love is like a commitment, which is sort of an issue for me.
Oh, weren't y'all both in a relationship?
Oh, let's not talk about that.
No, I like to hear you guys' perspective since it sounds so different from mine. Since no one asked though, let me talk about my side. I mean, I guess I'm the only one who hasn't been in a real relationship. I see love as a sort of bond that is overly romanticized. Well, actually, it's me who romanticizes, since I really have high standards. These theories, the olive theory, invisible string theory, red string theory, 3-month rule, all in which I believe that will happen to me. Honestly, I just want there to be a man who understands everything about me without having to actually tell him, which I know is unrealistic. There needs to be the right amount of humor where he knows where to draw the line and have some compassion for me. Maybe I do have extremely high standards, but I'm literally just a girl. Whatever. God forbid a girl vibe and romanticize her life. Oh my god.
Guys, don't we all love a good rom-com? My favorite is 27 Dresses, since the plotline is really good. But, did you guys know, films and media, especially romantic ones, have altered teens' view of love, especially teenagers, since they are often the ones who developed unrealistic ideas that raise their standards in relationships. Individuals in a relationship can balance romantic ideals with reality, while single individuals tend to adapt more fictional views. As a single person, I expect a man to run after me when I leave his side. Is that too much?
Oh, I don't know about that one, but I think that expectation shows how much we've romanticized toxic behavior through media. I also read a short article on Eastern Connecticut State University's newspaper that talks about all of the unrealistic standards people seem to have after watching these rom-coms. A lot of people start to romanticize the unhealthy relationship tropes because of these movies. A really well-known movie that addresses the same expectations you would want to have for your relationship is 10 Things I Hate About You. Have you watched it yet?
Yeah, I really like that movie.
Same. Me too, but in that movie, it really romanticizes the idea of enemies to lovers, which I never really noticed until reading that article. Even though I think the rom-com is super cute, reading that article made me realize how it idolized the wrong things, especially with Patrick taking a bribe at the beginning of the movie to go out with Catherine. I definitely would not want my relationship to start off that way, and having someone date me just for money.
Yeah, totally. I hate fake relationships. So, previously we talked about how Tina and Kylie's relationship was affected by social media. So let's see how a single may interpret and view love from their own unique perspective. Welcome our second special guest, Jalen Lai.
Hi, Jalen. We're going to ask you a few questions. We would like to know your perspective of how you perceive love. What does love mean to you?
Love to me can be found anywhere, really. It's like having a strong connection with someone or something and having lots of passion when it comes to them.
Interesting. Why do you think love is like this? What makes you think this way?
Growing up, I've watched lots of movies containing love, which really shifted my perspective on this concept. Not only that, but I found myself being surrounded firsthand by love itself, through my family, my friends, and hobbies. Nowadays, social media platforms such as TikTok has really had an influence with the way I perceive love, through things like edits and whatnot.
You made a great point, and we really enjoyed listening to how you personally view love. Thank you for coming on and giving us some perspective on how individuals perceive love compared to how couples do.
You guys are so welcome. Bye. Thank you so much.
To be true, can't take my eyes off.
To sum up everything we've discussed in today's episode, we first went through how people's perception of love differed by age, then by how it affected relationships, and finally how it can be perceived differently based off of someone's relationship status and personal experience.
Through learning all of this in such a quick episode, it has taught us and maybe you guys that the media doesn't truly reflect on how we love. It makes love look perfect, quick and effortless, but real love takes time, effort, and honesty. So don't let the screen and scripted storylines write your own story. No matter your age or status in life, clashing views on love can cause major issues, which can create misunderstandings. For example, one person in the relationship may expect a fairy tale one, while the other person simply just wants support. People who allow themselves to mature through emotions can learn that love isn't just a simple feeling, but a committed choice that grows over time. Setting realistic expectations that are not only based off of silly media can build long-lasting and healthier relationships.
So, out of everything, one thing we want you guys to take out from this episode is that dating is so lame and just emotionally draining.
Hey, that's not what we agreed on. What we really want you guys to take from this episode is how your perception of love shouldn't be based off of silly TikTok videos of couples or the ones that tell you how you can get a guy to be overly obsessed with you.
Yeah, we think it's better to base your own perception of love off of what you personally experience and what you believe would be the most beneficial for you.
So, before you step into a committed relationship, think about why you're in it. Do you like the person or do you like the thought of being with that person?
Thank you guys for chiming into
Can't take my eyes off